This is part 9 of Adelia, written by Huff. Homes and Children. Adelia and Norman's first home was a farmhouse northeast of Canton. One evening they invited our family out to show us their soon-to-be first house. Peggy and I decided to have a race to see who could get into every room first. Being a competitive person, I plunged into this race determined to win. With only one door left, I knew I was ahead. I was going to win. The last door was in the pantry just off the kitchen. Opening the door, I ran in. But it was not a room. It was the basement. Down I went, crashing into the brick wall at the bottom of the stairs. Dad rushed down the stairs to where I lay, dazed and stunned. He gently had me move my fingers, toes, arms, legs, and only when he had assured himself that all my parts were working did he carry me up the stairs. Guess I was not going to win after all. I could not understand why everyone was so upset. I kept assuring them I was fine, hoping to make them feel better. After all, there was no blood, and I was not crying. Adelia, on the other hand, was inconsolable. I was more concerned about upsetting Adelia than I was for any amount of pain I was feeling. Later, Adelia explained to me how terrified she had been that I might end up crippled like her. When Adelia realized I was okay, she lost control and broke down in tears. It was rare for Adelia's armor to shatter, and this made me realize how upset she had truly been. Within a couple of hours after returning home, I complained that my arm and shoulder hurt. I fell asleep on the living room couch. When I woke up, my arm was turning black and blue, and any movement caused extreme pain. Oh, great. Just what all of us needed, another trip to the emergency room. Bet that thrilled Mom and Dad. As it turned out, I had broken my collarbone. Thankfully, it was a clean break, no separation, so I did not need any surgery or a cast. However, I was required to wear a sling. With Adelia and Norman's wedding just a couple of weeks away, Mom knew I needed a sling to match my pretty lavender dress. Therefore, Mom made me a net sling which matched my dress perfectly. Here is a close-up picture of Peggy and me ready for Adelia's wedding. I am wearing my lavender net sling. Many good times took place on Adelia and Norman's farm. Adelia was a huge animal lover, as were all of us in our household. However, when Mom discovered that Adelia had 7 cats in the house, she was a little concerned. Mom made haste in persuading Adelia to reduce the number of cats in the house. One particular cat had part of its tail cut off. I do not remember how this happened, but I think it involved a rocking chair. Anyway, the tail was not healing, a fact which distressed Adelia. Norman, being a farm lad, decided that if you could bob lamb tails, why not cat tails? Mostly to make Adelia happy, but also to avoid a vet bill. Norman performed the procedure on the cat's tail. Alas, with a couple of weeks, the tail was healing nicely and Adelia was happy. 6 months later, Norman started working for his Uncle Lloyd. Adelia and Norman moved into their second home, an old farmhouse just northeast of Liverpool. In fact, this house was so old, it did not have an indoor bathroom. Shortly after Norman and Adelia moved into this old farmhouse, they announced that Adelia was pregnant. What? Wait a minute. Back that up. Did I tell you a few pages back that the doctor said she was most likely unable to become pregnant? Okay, fast forward. Soon after they moved into the farmhouse, Adelia announced she was pregnant. Have you been keeping score? I have. And the score is Adelia amazing, doctors 0. Here's a close-up image of the scorecard. Doctor's predictions: was not going to live, doctor's score 0, Adelia's score did. Would never walk, doctors 0, Adelia did. Would not move freely, doctors 0, Adelia did. Would never have children, doctors 0, Adelia did. Total, doctors 0, Adelia's score amazing! The unexpected had happened. Adelia was pregnant. Now the missing bathroom situation had to be resolved. Adelia, not an uppity type person, could adjust to most anything. However, some things in the modern world a woman could not live without. An indoor toilet being one. Can you imagine being pregnant with your stomach sticking out so far you can no longer see your feet in January with 6 inches of snow on the ground and trying to put on boots so you can trek outside to the little house where the moon always shines? Yeah, well, neither can I. Shortly, Norman and Uncle Lloyd began closing the front porch, converting it into a bathroom and nursery. Good fortune continued to shower Adelia and Norman, as the doctor marveled at how well Adelia moved through her pregnancy. No bed rest was required. Adelia had perfectly normal pregnancy. The doctor actually hoped Adelia would deliver naturally. However, in the last couple weeks of Adelia's pregnancy, and as her labor began, she had trouble. The doctor had given strict instructions that at the first sign of labor, Norman was immediately to get Adelia to the hospital emergency room. It was fortunate that they heeded the doctor's warning. As Adelia's labor progressed, she developed toxemia, and her blood pressure spiked. Toxemia is a bacterial infection that can quickly cause death to the mother and child alike. The doctor performed an emergency cesarean section. Once again, Adelia's life was in peril, and we nearly lost her during the procedure. The baby was born with what the medical staff referred to as a blue baby delivery. Under the skilled hands of doctors and nurses, mother and baby came through unscathed. They were alive, healthy, kicking, and life was once good again. On July 6, 1962, Adelia and Norman became proud parents of a son, Gregory Lynn Pollitt. What a joyous moment in all our lives. With the complications that ended Adelia's first pregnancy, Norman was extremely concerned about having another child. The doctor assured Norman that Adelia would be perfectly safe to carry another child, telling Norman that every pregnancy is unique. He explained that developing toxemia with one pregnancy did not mean toxemia would necessarily develop with the next pregnancy. With the doctor's reassurances, the happy couple went home to the farm and began their lives as parents. Adelia managed the rigors of caring for a new baby without any problems, with Mom handling the household chores, allowing Adelia to take care of herself and the baby. Norman was able to return to his farm work sooner than expected. Norman and Adelia were greatly appreciative of many things that Uncle Lloyd did for them. After all, he gave Norman a much-needed job, provided them a home, and put in a bathroom just for Adelia. Uncle Lloyd, being very fond of Norman and Adelia, often came to visit. Have you ever heard the saying, "Let sleeping babes lie"? Well, Uncle Lloyd did not give that much heed. Uncle Lloyd made his visits mostly in the morning hours. Upon arriving, he walked straight to the nursery, gathering Greg up in his arms, went to the kitchen, and drank a cup of coffee. Now, Adelia loved Uncle Lloyd, but it annoyed her that he had no regard for either a sleeping baby, the time involving in getting the baby to sleep, or the household chores Adelia hoped to complete while the baby slept. There were times, after being up all night with the crying baby, when Greg's nap time would be her nap time too. Adelia soon realized her protests fell upon deaf ears. Uncle Lloyd was going to hold Greg regardless of her fussing. Reluctantly, she accepted the inevitable, smiled, and rejoiced in the fact that Uncle Lloyd was very fond of his great-nephew. 2 months following Greg's birth, Norman started mechanic school and took a job with Coleman Pontiac in Canton. Since Uncle Lloyd needed the house for his farmhand, once again Adelia and Norman had to find another place to call home. They rented a small house in Lewistown, located next to the railroads. Adelia worried that the noise would keep the baby awake. However, the baby slept fine, and it was Adelia and Norman that lay awake. Sometime in October of 1962, Adelia and Norman received the news they were again going to be parents. What was it the doctor had indicated? Most likely Adelia would not be able to have children. Guess this spunky little female will not be told can't for any reason, even having babies. As well as their current home location, its size quickly became a factor. They decided that adding a baby to a house already bulging with 3 would be a bit too much of a squeeze. They also had to consider that Adelia needed additional help once the new baby arrived. Adelia, knowing Mom and Dad were always willing to help, did not want them to drive to Lewistown every day. Norman and Adelia reached the conclusion they needed to move to Bryant, closer to Mom and Dad. Anxiously, they set their plan in motion. Their plan not only put them closer to Mom and Dad, giving Adelia the help she needed, but Norman's travel time back and forth to work would be cut in half as well. The next step in their plan was to find a lot on which to put a trailer. This part of their plan required Mom and Dad's approval. You see, Mom and Dad owned 2 empty lots next to their home. The plan was to get Mom and Dad to agree to the placement of a mobile home on one of the 2 lots. Of course, Mom and Dad readily agreed. The remainder of the plan fell into place with Norman and Dad deciding to set the trailer on the lot closer to the house. With the placement of the trailer determined, Dad and Norman readied the site with water, sewer, and electric hookups. Soon the trailer was in place, and the quaint little family moved into their new home. There were added perks to living close to Mom and Dad. First, installing an intercom system allowed Adelia to call for help with the push of a button. Second, they had a quick access to the basement in case of severe weather. Last, there were 2 built-in babysitters living next door, Peggy and yours truly. Again, Adelia's pregnancy went without incident. Greg's birth had been a miracle happening. This second birth promised to be a miracle as well, but with a bit of a spin. Since the expected due date was so near the date of Greg's birth, the doctor agreed that the cesarean section for the second child could be performed on Greg's birthday. So, delivered into this world on July 6, 1963, was a daughter, Leslie Jean Pollitt. 1 boy, 1 girl, and they were exactly 1 year apart. Shopping trips with the children along nearly always resulted in interaction with perfect strangers. Of course, I realized that these strangers thought Greg and Leslie were darling twins. However, explaining to perfect strangers, without being rude, the oddity of Greg and Leslie's birthday became quite tedious. I mean, really, who wants to talk about the details of their births with a total stranger? Considering that Greg and Leslie were nearly the same size, it probably did appear that they were paternal twins. Nevertheless, since Greg had blonde hair and brown eyes, where Leslie had red hair and green eyes, and they did not look anything alike, we could not see how anyone could mistake them for twins, fraternal or otherwise. Nevertheless, shopping trips most always resulted in an amusing story or 2 foretelling when we arrived back home. In part 10 of Adelia, written by Huff, we will be reading Pouting Redhead.